Okay, we'll do a sound check because today it is important for me to hear Geshe well in particular. Can everybody hear my voice okay?
No good.
And
Yeah,
Geshe,
congratulations.
can you hear Geshe?
Yeah, and maybe better. Is your mic turned on?
It is, yeah.
Go share.
It is turned on, yeah.
But especially you kids are very, very quiet.
I honestly don't know what to do, Dave, because I think it's that problem we didn't resolve. I think it's the switching back and forth. I'm going to try one more thing.
Okay, Geshe sounds all right. Thank you, Geshe. Can Tashi Dele? Geshe sounds okay. Our situation is we moved our sound setup, and so. Okay,
So
that's
they
good.
just did something
much better.
on
That's
here.
that's
Am I
better.
not? I'm not too loud though, right? It's okay.
You're okay.
Okay. Okay. Good. Okay. And came tuntunro.
Oh, yeah, that congratulations, congratulations. To the ganzo three. This is a chimbo tetas, and then Chikishawashi,
So first of all, Tashi Dele, greetings to all of the Dharma friends, and for us to be able to gather on this very auspicious, this very special day is something very fortunate.
Oda Sunjigan Java Mogan, Tan Java, Sunjiga Tita, Chimbo Son, Zombata, Gambore, so that and Richiza, that is Lochigan, Tisachima to Yamaras.
So there are three important holidays associated with the Buddha, the sort of three high holy days, if you will, and this is one of those.
Oh, that's so Sunjin Zombali the paper. Kutumarawa, honest, then the Kalakala.
So this particular occasion of Saga Dawa, it marks the Buddha coming into the world, the Buddha's holy birth. It marks the Buddha's enlightenment, as well as the Buddha's manifestation of the paranirvana. So it's the intersection of these three important things.
That's Dawa Corolla, Saga Dawa, Smita, but Saga Dawa, Senata Kamachil, Sagas, Kama Sagas, you are saying.
So in terms of why this month in Tibetan is called Saga Dawa, this might be interesting for people. Saga is actually the name of a particular star that appears in the sky.
Kamate Richini Kedachimbo Kozogia Meta Gate, Tisetel Kamado Dawani, Nondondro, Tise.
Korajaya Dawa.
Yeah, Dawa Korajaya.
So it is said that it is on this very special day when there's kind of an unusual manifestation of the moon and this star, Saga, circumambulating the earth. So both the moon and this star circumambulate the earth.
And so
Geshe said, these are kind of maybe not the most important things, but if you're ever wondering why this day is called Saga Dawa, this is the reason. Gongro Sumshusonga. Kaji. And as well, it is particularly important that on this day the Buddha achieved the full and complete enlightenment. And this happened when he was 35 years of age. And so today is a reminder for us, actually, particularly this activity of the Buddha's enlightenment, that through his practice he was able to achieve the supreme liberation, and we ourselves actually should be striving to do the same.
다는 타발은 로야가 다 보게 거야게 된다는 민주 거야게 된다 타 뭐뭐지 바래 되네 타마체네 거 마토네라 요로니 시작가 가라 아니 배바래 자보자니.
So actually, as you know, the Buddha was a prince, and his father, the king, he wanted to keep him in the palace. So in terms of the Buddha's manifestation of renunciation or definite emergence, the king did everything that he could to try to prevent that. But despite all of the king's efforts, ultimately he failed. The Buddha was able to bring forth the mind of renunciation, and so we know, as the story goes, it was at the age of 29 that he left the palace.
다 된nel했더니 걸로 선지 소지 군다라 아니 디 좀발라 소바 던지기 샤와시 디디도와
두두바 로스로스
소지 군다
로스로스 데니 로스미슈가 중가
내가 될 수게 될 손지 바라와스
중가 다보지그와
손지바
산제바 리네코 중가 로스미슈가 차두 데니 상게 파레스 나디 케치치기요
시오스 손지 바레스
로스미슈가 차 파드가 마데 피카블라 숨시소지 데네 상게네 데네 쇼키디로 숨시소가
로트칼레자네라 로트칼레자바라와스 로트칼레자 소지 소지 구다 디 메바조
로스
티슈케 손지 바라와스
로스 숨시소지 하고마서 고통스 so then
로스 소지
gonlo so 데네 코 트룬칼 두첸 상게 파레스 쇼게디 디 케치치기요 세포 라게멘데스
야 디세 지바라 와타 텐다 라만다 라무스
니 치와디레 코 곰자 피카블라 로숨시소지레스 데네 상게네 쇼케디 gonlo 숨시소가레스 디 케치치기요
okay.
So then the Buddha, at the age of 29, he left the palace. He underwent many years of asceticism. And then at the age of 34, he sat under the Bodhi tree. When he sat under the Bodhi tree, he was able to defeat the 4 Maras. And on the morning of his 35th birthday, he was able to reach complete and perfect enlightenment.
다 디세데오 드리기 디세지 이렇게 되요 아래 세대 있어 다 저야 자침부 다 자침모는 침모도 손지바데 다 자체조지로 왔어.
So this is a very holy day, the day of Saga Dawa, but in particular the activities that are commemorated on this day, it was the achieving of Buddhahood, the achieving of enlightenment that is the most important.
다 로트 가와시니 테니스 손지바텔 다 거지 뭐 첨부 문화와 이요아레스 조지.
And so in terms of the 6 years, including those years of asceticism, that the Buddha underwent, there are said to be there were sort of 2 important meanings that we can derive from that.
다 로트 가와시니 대체바데 아니 시부톤바리 칭아로서 말라자 자비가라 나로서 이나요 가윙원이 깔레자 돼야돼 하고서 뭐 누리지고 말했어 저 가윙원이라 어느 소소 답이 된다라 사람들 생각이 된다 사람들 깔레자 돼야돼.
So the first thing to understand is that those 6 years of asceticism, these were done with a mind of joy, right? We talk about different kinds of effort. We talk about a joyous effort, which is tsundru in Tibetan, and then Geshe is using this word durujaya. Durujaya is almost like an idea of toil, but it is not this mind of toil that the holy beings work towards liberation, right? It is with this mind of joyous effort, even during those difficult asceticisms.
가빙원이 임비 지세가르레 자비가 샤와트리 부서초바지 요아레 셔시 이제 농기지에서는 강가 부서초바지 요아레 대지 강가 보게 요아네라 어다 가빙원은 건로토하겠네서.
So we can see from the Buddha's story, right, that in terms of all of the conditions, the worldly conditions to be happy, he was the son of a king. He had all of the inner and outer conditions that he needed to live a very content, happy life. Despite all of that, with a joyful mind, with a joyous mind of effort, he brought forth renunciation and left that behind.
다 어떠지래서 조지에 거의 샤와 부서초바 간디지먹이 간디지이나 디게 대신이네데
So what we can learn from this is that the situation within samsara, no matter what kind of happiness, no matter how high it may seem within samsara, within cyclic existence, these will not be able to bring a lasting satisfaction. This is the first thing we can learn from this. And so another aspect of this story is that as the Buddha came to the end of his years of asceticism, at the end of those 5 years into the 6th year, a young woman offered him some rice with milk. And he took that rice with milk to kind of restore his strength.
다 가침보 눈에 침보대 가로서 이나요 다 포에 타발로야 손지 셈비살로야 답대 야부 템보지 그거요나 리데인이 메지 템보 할레가 다 버스 바지 그거요 하래.
So if this teaches us that if we want to be able to work towards moksha or liberation, that if we want to be able to traverse and complete the Bodhisattva path, right? Extreme asceticism is not good for us. We need to keep the body healthy and strong. This is the other thing we can learn from this. So actually this teaching of the Buddha is something that we should really take to heart, which is that as we progress on our journey to enlightenment, the body is something that is very important for us. We should not neglect our physical health and rest. This is extremely important for us to take care of. And this was particularly important for the Buddhahood to manifest at the time, because at that time in India, there were many traditions, ascetic traditions, that said that the more difficulty you gave your body, that like through the mortification of the flesh and those kind of austerities, that would draw one closer to liberation. There was this mistaken view. And so anyways, as we know, after the Buddha's enlightenment, for 49 days, he remained in like a contemplative silence. And then after a request, after 49 days, he first began to turn the wheel of the holy Dharma. And so today, especially on days like this, one of the important practices that we can do is a recollection or a mindfulness of the Buddha, for example, through his deeds. So mindfulness of the Buddha isn't just a mere remembrance. It's really thinking about the good and wholesome activities that the Buddha engaged in, and us trying to strive to follow his example.
Mm-hmm.
So Geshe would like to begin today with just an easy way of going for refuge and bringing forth bodhicitta. So we'll do, so Geshe said maybe we'll start with the praise to Shakyamuni Buddha. So that's in our prayers at the beginning of teachings, and we'll recite this 3 times. Tumba chomden de dejin sheba dra chomba yonda ba zobe sangye riba dan sha su demba de war sheba jiten kemba chebu duwe kalo jorwa lana me balada min angi temba sangye chomden de pe jawa shakya tu baila chazelo chede chaksu chi ho Denpa Chonden de Deshin Sheba Drachomba Yandapa Zope Sangye Reba Dan Shasu Denpa Dewa Sheba Jiden Chemba Chebu Dewe Kalo Jora Lana Meba Radam Minamgi Denpa Sangye Chonden de Pechawa Shakya Tuba La Chause Lo Chede Chapsu Chi O Chonden de Deshin Sheba Drachomba Yandapa Zope Sangye Reba Dan Shasu Denpa Dewa Sheba Jiden Chemba Chebu Dewe Kalo Jora Lana Meba Radam Minamgi Denpa Sangye Chonden de Pechawa Shakya Tuba La Chause Lo Chede Chapsu Chi Ho Manderwa Peki Joshi Medo Chan Rira Lingshi Nide Gyamba Di Sangye Shinda Mede Bowa Gi Joku Nanda Shinla Cheba Sho Idam Guru Ratna Mendalaka Niryatayami Refuge in Bodhicitta. Chedang Sogi Chenam La Changchu Badu Dani Gyausu Chi Dagi Chenyen Gibe Sonam Gi Jola Benje Sangye Joba Sho Chedang Sogi Chenam La Changchu Badu Dani Gyausu Chi Dagi Chenyen Gibe Sonam Gi Jola Benje Sangye Joba Sho Chedang Sogi Chenam La Changchu Badu Dani Gyausu Chi Dagi Chenyen Gibe Sonam Gi Jola Benje Sangye Joba Sho. So then let us bring our mind into a state of peace, and as best you can visualize in front of you on a beautifully ornamented throne in a beautiful place, Lord Buddha Shakyamuni.
Lama kange ngo yedo kange ngo oda sunji kuro yi samata boji.
And as we imagine the Buddha, we contemplate that he is the jewel all-in-one, the embodiment of all of the yidams, all of the enlightened teachers, bodhisattvas, and so forth. And we imagine that gazing up towards the Buddha with us are all 6 types of sentient beings within samsara, but in human form. So with the mind of faith and hope in the result, imagine that all sentient beings gaze up towards the Buddha with respect. So bring forth this mind of bodhicitta thinking that through my love and compassion for all of these mother sentient beings with whom I am connected, to be of most benefit to them, I must achieve the same enlightenment Lord Shakyamuni himself achieved. I must achieve complete Buddhahood.
손지 걸어이나요. 대행야 속에 때를 다 보게. 정바도 니지스타 니지슈 잡아더니 당고 주토스 나로서 로 메르와스 텐데 더 토그레 소지.
and think that what's required for this immeasurable love and compassion for sentient beings, when the Buddha himself was a Bodhisattva, he first brought forth these minds of love and compassion in the hell realm. Therefore, myself with this human form, I am definitely capable of generating this love and compassion. So we'll pause there. So Geshe said that he is mindful that today is a work day and some people may be tuning in but a little bit worried about getting off to work. So he says we'll do the Bodhisattva vow ceremony first. So we'll begin with that. So of course we understand that as we set out, in order to be able to achieve Buddhahood, we need to definitely have within place this mind of bodhicitta. And one of the most important causes for developing engaging bodhicitta is the Bodhisattva vows. So of course, if you have received the Bodhisattva vows before, then as you participate today, you can think that by taking them again, I am renewing them from any degeneration. And if that has not degenerated, then I am wishing to bring those Bodhisattva vows to their full perfection. So the verse that we are reciting, it's I go for refuge to the three jewels, I confess individually all negative actions and so forth. This has these three things in place: refuge, confession of misdeeds, and rejoicing in virtues, because these are very important foundations for receiving the Bodhisattva vow. So then we are going to recite this verse 3 times together. Please repeat after Geshe as best you can. So as Geshe transmits the verse of the vows to you, you can imagine that surrounding him is mainly Shakyamuni Buddha, but also all of the root and lineage gurus, all of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the various meditational deities, and so forth.
Genjo sala dasha cha
Kunjo sumla dachabji,
Liba tongje so so sha
Dipa Tomje Soso Sha,
Rui ge la ji ya rong
Joye Gela Je Rong,
Songji shangju yi ji zu
Sanje Janju Yigi Song,
Songji qin tong zo jo la
Sangye Chudong Zojo La,
Shangju ba de dasha cha
Janju Badu Dachabji,
Rongje dian na ra de she
Ranjun Den Radu Je,
Shangju sen na xie ba je
Ranju Sena Jeba Je,
Shangju chu ge sen na xie ji ni
Janju Chogi Sene Jeje Ne,
Genje tongje da gen zhe de ni
Senjin Tangje Dagi Dundu Ne,
Shangju xian zhu yi gong xie ba je
Janju Jeju Yon Jeba Je,
Rola pe she songji de ba shu
Rola Benje Sangye Juba Sho.
我打做的他先去有做他说你咋去我看这些这个要那他真的点农业去吃呢了吧一的我啊兄弟身边些吧那瞧刚刚把这头发说你咋做的人是吧
So really our task is to actualize this, to practice these vows, to see all sentient beings as close to us. 건데 자성마타니아 보냐야 되니?
我前这个年农业说了多年了一的我兄弟身边些吧刚刚把这头发说你
From seeing all these sentient beings as close to us, we have this mind of affectionate love that sees them all as attractive. And then for their sake, we do our best to engage in the Bodhisattva's conduct.
我也他来你办用啊就今天在吧是
So now, after the first recitation, we will begin with the second.
给
Please
就
repeat.
说了大家就
군주 숨라 다잡지,
你把团结说说说
디바 탐지 소소샤.
我当你把干的只有个一那有他我东把手东把嘛么的话要一直打 예바 소소바 간디지라고요. 바송아서.
So that verse, I confess individually all negative actions. Geshe said, think about any negativities you may have accumulated, and in particular, any faults or contraventions related to the different vows you have taken, and offer these up in confession.
로이 게라 지요롱.
Joy gela jirong.
생겨 생제 설이나요. 다가 연락가야 보체기에는 다 타도서 그 지스요롱 거기.
So that line means to rejoice in the virtues of all migrators. So Geshe said, lift your mind in rejoicing for the positive deeds of all sentient beings, uncontaminated by the mind of jealousy.
소지 상주 이지즈.
Sangye Jiangshu Yigi Song.
송지 치동 소조라.
Sangye Chudong Zojo.
소주 바도 다샤저.
Jiangshu Badu Dajia Ji.
다티티가 대제 더 많이 비šan로 지세가 레스.
Meditate on the uncommon Mahayana refuge.
소주 초게 세나 세진네.
Jiangshu Chogi Sani Cheche.
대제 동제 다겐 제더네.
Senjin Tanje Dagi Dunju Nye.
소주 세주 저거 제송. 지금 마서.
No.
조지 생제 소주 세주 말은 제송만 로제 때나 라드셔.
Ranju Dunu Rabdu Chir.
소주 세나 셰바저.
Jiangshu Sena Jebaji.
소주 초게 세나 세진네.
Jiangshu Chogi Sene Cheche.
세제 동제 다겐 제더네.
Senjin Tamshi Dagi Dundu Nye.
소주 세주 예공 셰바저.
Jiangshu Cheshu Yon Jebaji.
罗拉别说送进这把手，
Rola Benje Sangye Joba Sho.
我用做了要面把它偏把插从这个。
Without any exception or discrimination, I will work for every last sentient being to benefit.
我打来是没他的，他如果说个俺讨你打鸟的要呢，我打对吧？马鸟把说真的，他要不去送吧。
And so then after this third recitation, it's the final recitation, you have received the Bodhisattva vows. If you have received them before and they have degenerated, imagine that any degeneration is restored.
我打我现在讨马鸟啊，今年兄弟身边东把去讨你，他兄弟身把敲下来，他就不是说把去讨送把对去看清不认识。
If this is your first time receiving these vows, it's important to rejoice and to think through receiving this, I've received a deep imprint within my mind to be able to actualize bodhicitta.
马鸟妈前面马鸟嘛就要为那打电话打完东西，过年过的打完才把几个打完东西，过年过的配送送。
So we should think that now that we have received these vows, if they have not degenerated, that they increase and increase like the waxing moon.
跟住说了大小就，
Kunju suna daja
一
ji.
把多接说说少，
Iba tamshi so so sha.
对给了几个种，
Joye gela je.
出去想去一起走，
Sangye jangshu yiki
出
song.
去启动做就了，
Sangye chudong so jo
那
la.
个把到大小就，
Jangshu badu dasha ji.
我些电脑上这些，
Jangshu dunye rabdu chir.
说什么东西看给的，不是做这个这个多是。
So here it's a verse about achieving the very best causes for oneself and others.
想去山那些把就，
Jangshu sena jeba ji.
想去求个山那些经呢，
Jangshu chogi sene cheche
这
ne.
些东西打给真的呢。
Senchen tangche dagi dundu
想
nye.
去先出一共些把就，
Jangshu chenshu yon cheba ji.
罗拉配手送进这把手，
Rola penche sangye juba sho.
我想去先把查下来，他就不是做把去，他都是他的慢慢把大家保进来，要都给你说把感情嘛。
So we should have this awareness that within our mind now is this very precious cause, this potential to become a bodhisattva. And we must do our very best to guard and protect this potential without allowing it to degenerate and to work to improve it.
我听这个记是吧？
Yes. So we'll pause there.
我到第一年是个人，俺就刚刚兄弟身边老了，他都从电波去查查说那他看第一那给我的谁，他得开始听我说我是。
So it's a great kind of profit to this, because if we are able to kind of bring forth this bodhisattva aspiration and engage in that conduct, we have all of the causes for a continuous happiness.
다 저시와니 시와리나 덴도니 덴도마도 예수 치는 드라마 근데 다 듣기 원인의 말을 했어. 봐.
So isn't it a happy thing? Because if we receive and protect this from lifetime to lifetime, we'll be able to be reborn in the higher realms without worrying about being born in the unfortunate states of existence.
소바제 데소나 로데쇼든 저 살라마송카 비슈마도지 다 파시고레 두아스기네.
And then what Lama Tsongkhapa said, that through working for the welfare of others, our own welfare is naturally achieved, that really starts to make sense.
다 딘디바제 다 두선 수제 멜로디 롱테 마테.
So Geshe will now give the transmission, the oral transmission of the King of Prayers. So for this, just try to your best to listen with attention.
어떤데 닭고는 저기가 다요. 드네요. 이제 비슷해. 대다 그거 말 때리죠.
Yeah. So Geshe said that the oral transmission, he'll be reading in Tibetan. So the transmission happens on the basis of a sound. So you don't need to understand everything that's saying. If you want to learn about this prayer, Geshe has extensive teachings about the King of Prayers on Lama Yeshe Ling's YouTube channel. So you can check it out there.
자가게도 아야 바타자야 자나다다 나라자 베게도 법바송보시 베명로직 자보 법반 좀 바시나 좀 발라 상처로 진예서도 수진지되나 디세시바 많이 생기고 더 기만에 대도 통제라 리동아이 동이 샤지고 니미야라 디데서 바시다 그거 알아서 지고.
So Geshe said within this King of Prayers, it's kind of part of it is an extensive expression of the 7 limbs or the 7 branch prayer.
내가 리동아이 동이 샤지고 송보시 베명로 떠다게 자와 통지 예징에서 대신에 되냐라도 바 야와가라도 상처로 디제되나 되냐 순전한 수제세제나 주바도 대다 시지노 말렘 토제 자와도게 공함에 대도 거 보면서 자서로 이제라 자세다게 자와까지 다라지제 도와줘 토제다게 매도 동바 청원 동바 동선년도 주바도 저도 마음에 주도 디베 동바에 자와도나 제바저나 도마도 주주 샤마 범마르라 노바도 게베 제바바메 주가제 자와도나 제바저바저바고나 메자 제바도 자와도잖아요. 손보시라 대비 도다게 자와가라 상자 제바 저한테 자셔도 되면 리동와도 이야 리동와도 대지 이지 정원도 바닥에 저바저바저바도 저다게 소소죠 수지 자와고도 수지세요 자노도 로도 모로도 로와간에서는 고라요 왔다 근저 지서도 지서 다이로 고노 주리엔제데 조마마다 주여로 수여마 gembo de da da to jela kolola na me ba ko ga nyang na de ku je de da lan ro ka la pe de ka ba shi ge de ju ba yo da ge ta ma ra ja so wa jo wa sha sa wa do chi chi ja wa de ji se yo no ke jo wa yo ge wa ju de da ge jo to je da de sha ju sha ngo ko de bi so je no no jo je ji de da na ku je je jo ko yo ma she de da ra ni wa zo so du sha ju ra ba so je je shu je ka le je no wa ji ba ba da ja wa ya 在大家进入时，大家就一兄弟这主席家吧，东书记谁就把那个公安局书记谁这公安局今天把我到那没问题就这吧根据细节电脑呢，他把这些这吧跟这吧就是你先把那个大些这吧跟他先把这就才啦，跟他直播些往那大都当那了，就把说这吧跟这些老这吧都什么什么做些。是这些吧，正面用到把大头嘛，就西面些吧，就他一个都那那个这个大头每一个人都拿给这当中就是把这些到。 도제 게도 다기 지대도 디지 바로 오셔라라 제대 소주선은 노용제마 디바코노 드바자바도 대도 말하면서 중앙선을 돈이면 디절레노래 조진지대로 와노 제다 베마 지모 저 바바 저원다 노가 도바메다 제 신기체도 쇼노 저거 방에서 되어라도 저 대화다라노와 거기에 제로 동제라노 베바 제 선주셔와 요소도 제 세제다 디제도 통바주 总部下巴大那拉的这马国高巴更多些说大给些都从马国些吧，大同主，大同呢，大同主把这里头管了都能升级，中国下巴大同面路记头些到了偏把这边主，总部下巴他的电机吧，大同有大的这把书，大给那有一门就一门与书记是这个一个我能也是大给下巴的。 马国高巴更多么说话，到了这把这把东西都没去，这就去下巴更多东西。 总部些吧，东巴些吧，用我们搞个跟那些爸爸这个是把这些东西搞完，山东一些当然没人呢，他都是啦，听那东西的，跟着没人这就这些当然这些人，现在说句么家说句那说句这些那就把那说句些吧，些到我这嘛到嘛了，都些说什么，这说这了这些呢，这个说句家都就那家都那搞完家都些啦，都嘛就说句要啦，这些这个这个去，要啊个用也了，弄到把。 도와 근조 성바 저저 수지 수여라 도와 주바 저바 지시 저바 도 콜레 저노라 도 고에 대도 근용 수용 뭐 저라 도 지도 조라 도 주마 고 까바 도지 주바 계지지 계다 정주바 저 공요 공요 까바 대서 세대도 계지 자제지나 주바 대서 저바 바에 생게 공화 대도 계지지 지라 다 계다 대도 대도 그는 세야라 저마 집에도 도 진주 고용 대세다 계시게 받다 되게 되는 게 말이야 대다만 쇼는 도제도 저와다 계시는 게 알아봐 줘 고용 많이 지도 좀 대다른 바수지 대다른 바수자 고로고 양해인데 말하다 지다네 그 그저 저도 저거 그는 이제 저도 그는 그 그니 거의 대비 또는 근데 얘네 집에 또는 와도 근데 잡아서 하기에도 그니 얘기에서는 또는 잡아 매바 주의시도 시라다도 대조도 계속 주도는 용도도 네 저도는 용서도 하시지 모도는 근도 저바제 뒤조도는 도면라지 저소시에 또는 저바 제로 자서 넘바도 제제 세제 자서 다른 넘바도 제로 자서라도 동시 시제자도라도 도바제셔와 자서 넘바도 제제멜로 자서라도 도바제 소제자서라도 제제제 가와자도 뭐냐 봐줘 고용 디서시베 자와 저제세메멜로 저라노 좀바시베 저제 소원진에 대변말에다 계속바제 자와 괜찮은자도 공감이는 끊어 소제자 교와도 좀바시베 배워도 더 토제라도 거 리도 와도 이정도 제셔바도 다시로 용도 봐 와서 뭐 개발자가 왔다라도 여대도 주바죠. 근데 그 와서 뭐 시비를 주바잖아요. 뭐 셔바 마고 가바가 뭐 셔바 대샤와 말에도 봐줘. 셔바도는 세 마저지. 내대노 주 세주면 봐줘. 셔바 처음에 바나네 저거도 저거도 여서 봐. 오케이 다도 저거 저거 세 말에 다 용한테 저거 되면 저도래 동안이 뭐다 저거 다게 면은 다 해도 공용 쇼제시는 다 해봐. 제제 되면 저거는 뭐라도 매도 봐. 좋아. 인간단에 가봐 봐이 공기행 공화에 잡아본다고 되는 것을 주게 제대로 예지作用 대화시에만 너무서는 도배 주어다만 더 주어로 그면서 재면은 더 받아 대능에서 또 이제 봉화저 대능 중봉에 뭐 봉화에 놓아 다용은 놓아 다이 되고 대녀가 또 대단히 말하냐 다 맞제네 뭐 내가 그것도 좀 받아 외쳐 나한테 다른 뭐 뭐도 대저가 저거 처음에가 보다 게 되면은 공연 뭐 좀 계시 봐다 대서 뭐 좀 한다고 제 내가 말은 요소 중앙 저 수시 멜로디 대바이는 처음에가 게 디바이나 다 주시도 않고 그래.
So this benefit which is explained here, it explains that through the practice of the King of Prayers, even the negativities of one of the 5 actions of immediate retribution can be completely purified.
내가 말은 요소 중앙 이제 또는 수도 제노 또 리도 카도노도 대바제 디도 뭐 대몽베 대마마다 완지 돼서 뭐 끝나고 제가 저지 뭐 주도 대녀만도 손에 세제 배서 대대대 저주서 콜로라도 들어대도 저 도제도 고요 좀 보시 매면도 총하다 내도 놀라요 대요 너무 뭐 소지 저주라 소니 많이 저마바에 저다 참마다 끊어서 뭐 되면 되게도 그게 계속 달라지 그만도 도제라도 그래서 집에 잡아더니 뭐하고라 추던 거 봐도 그게 예자만도 그 좀 보시라도 뭐 나는 제이 디제 잡아나 저와 도제 다는 셔서 그래서 노아다이 대통령에 대와 제제 시대라도 디스테 대손이나 메론도 또 도제 말링에다 저와서 대다 말에다 그래서 이제 제세 현재 변바저 야이 주고서 제가 와대 변모 동바신는 제리 노아다이 대행에서 들으대 봐요도 대 도쇼 대나도 들으다라도네 저와 뭐 보셔다니 로이 도지 쇼진도 생에서 냐나라면 뭐 제서 뭐 제면로 답 배와 주제다 게 저가 되는 로이면로 개와는 깨지지게 도전 조마쇼 조조 도전 조마쇼 뭐시 배방방이 봐 세노도 타이 공도 된 로와 된거 저와시와노 너게 봐메베 내가 더 봐서 면로 잡아도 또 죽게도 타이 로와 가라 페이지 그도 좀비 제베 준도 된게 소잖아 말에 동화쇼 봐봐서 뭐시 면로 잡고 조소 So
that concludes the transmission of the King of Prayers. So through the practice of this prayer, then the causes of the lower realms can be completely purified and one can go from happy fortunate rebirth to happy fortunate rebirth. So of course it is not just a prayer, the King of Prayers, right? It is also a description of all of the different types of Bodhisattva's conduct within the form of a prayer. There are many histories of holy beings who really just through practicing this King of Prayers as their practice were able to reach very high levels of realization. So we need to make sure that we lift ourselves on this holy day of Saga Dawa, recognizing our good fortune at being able to accumulate merit in this way through making prayers of dedication.
做记得他第三个第一呢，他个第一呢，是什么的？如果说是刚才他到从几是天边头呢，从几个小娃儿的他不给，这呢就是就是讲干什么嘞？
So one of the most important practices that we can have as much as possible is to practice this mindfulness of the Buddha, and particularly the recollection of his holy deeds. And in this way, we rejoice in all of those holy deeds. This is a very powerful practice.
我说有啥的，咱做不来的人，做不来的，我他不给上班，你几个他不给搞哟，他属于全部，找不么个呀？他跌怕，我上班你几不给。 So we
understand that within this world, right, despite the problems, there are many beings who possess love and compassion. So sorry, I'm sorry. So in this world at the moment, it is a time of great violence. There is great violence and disharmony, right, that we are observing. So our task then, in the world at this time, is to, like the rising and shining sun, like a blossoming flower, try to nourish the minds of love and compassion as much as possible. So it is said that during the time of one of the previous Buddhas of this fortunate aeon, the various Bodhisattvas were kind of called, I guess, into a type of meeting. And it was asked, who wants to manifest enlightenment and work for the benefit of the world during this time of degeneration? And it is said that most of the holy beings who were present at that time remained silent. So the other bodhisattvas that were present, they couldn't promise to be reborn during this increment of time where afflictions were said to be strong and where many problems were said to manifest, right? They didn't feel like they could promise to come to benefit at that time. So the bodhisattva who actually promised that I will come during that difficult time, during that time of degeneration, he was the bodhisattva who became our teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. And at that time, because he had promised to undertake that task, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that were present and that observed this, they said great words of praise and encouragement. So it's very important to remember our holy teacher in this way. And also, as we recollect and draw inspiration from Lord Buddha, to remember that his teachings are still present in the world. They have not disappeared completely yet. So we must strive to practice those as best we can. And one thing I would like to remind you of is that in terms of the afflictions, in terms of the afflicted minds, they are powerful only because of the force of habituation, not because they are grounded in truth. And no matter how much we follow those delusions, as much as we may think, it is not possible to achieve mental peace through following the delusions and the deluded conduct.
아니 덴비도 요용하러 왔어. 뒤돌아 다 공부질래가 이나 다시 되는 줄아요.
Love, compassion, patience, and the like. If we look at these, if we look at these lines, if we look at these lines and develop them as much as possible, then they are definitely going to be able to increase and increase. Because unlike the afflictions, they are grounded in truth.
다 여러들하셔서 기념하시기도 하다. 다 듣지래. 듣지 이상 알았을 텐데 제 도그래 해서 뽑아 봤었다. 뽑아 니밥 또 전부 그러지.
So we have to have a courageous attitude, a brave attitude, thinking, if I exert myself in bringing this forth, I can definitely achieve it.
뭔가 니가 돈을 쏘는 또 거야. 저 지대 거의 그 녀다 쏘는 돈을 세슈처럼 줘야. 뽑아처럼 줘야. 녀래 슈처럼 줘야 지 그거 알았어.
Awesome.
거의 그 녀다 먹은 데 왔어. 그 대지 쏘는 돈을 강에. 다 전이 녀래처럼 줘야. 뽑아도 니밥처럼 줘야 지 그거 알았어.
So one path towards being able to bring forth more effort is to think about the difficulties of samsara and think about the difficulties of samsara. In this way, think I must strive to be free of it.
다 뭔가 지대 소지도 전지 삼바서 예대르지 재미 돈에 다 보게 뽑아도 니밥도 녀래 슈처럼 그거 알았어.
Another one is to think of the qualities of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and taking this as an inspiration, bring forth one's effort and one's striving in practice. So thank you very much. This concludes our activities today. So we'll end with some brief dedications. So dedicate nicely. Kyangju semju rinpoche waje bana jeju chewa nyamba meba yang gone gondo bewa sho toni Dawa rinpoche waje bana jeju chewa nyamba meba yang gone gondo bewa sho Bao jida jiamba dang kada zambo de yang de shi de da kungi jesu da lo chi gewa di da tang chi ra du mo di su she bi gewa tang shi gi mo wa gang la shu da ma wa di da gi da wa di kun kyang dong bo xie xie ra de mo wa gi gang ri ra wi go wi xin gang di pe dang de wa ma le jiu wei ni qian ri zi wang tian zi jia zuo yi xia bei si di ba de dian jiu. So we'll pause there. So thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Happy Saga.